So just to let everybody know, I'm Roland with Impress Computers. Um, Joining me today is Mark Leeper from Hatz.Ai. Hatz.Ai is a secure AI platform that gives you access to all the big LLMs. Well, what are LLMs? Well, those are all your major players. ChatGPT, Claude, um, Grok, and those are the platforms that people have available, and sometimes they have subscriptions to multiples of those. So, Mark, do you want to explain how Hat's.Ai came about and how it can benefit businesses?
Yes, I would love to. And if it's all right, Roland, if I can share my screen just so we have
Sure.
some visual to talk through, I'll go ahead and share that.
Absolutely.
There we go. Let me know if you all can see
Yep.
where it says
It looks
security and adoption. Okay.
looks good.
So where Hats AI came about was we come from a cybersecurity background, and the thing that we saw happening, our co-founders about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, saw this AI proliferation of people being curious about AI and trying it, and lots of AI solutions coming out. All of those different LLMs, ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, and people flocking to them because of the impact that they can have. But in doing that, you do run the risk of putting your data out there for people to see. AI gets better because it learns and trains on your data if you don't do it in a secure way. And people also sometimes don't know where to get started or don't know where to go once they get started. So Hats comes in and partners with our strategic partners, like Roland with Impress, and we help provide a secure environment where you can use all of those AI models without those third parties, Grok, OpenAI, Meta training on your data. And it also provides an adoption framework. And we're going to talk through some of that adoption framework through the lens of looking at use cases that you can start using essentially right away to get that time to value down to minutes and not weeks or months. Um, yeah. So move ahead here. And Roland, I know before the webinar officially kicked off, we were talking about some of these things. The secure AI environment, not putting your data out there for it to be discovered by your competitors or just to be out there in the training model. It's not like you can delete it once it goes out there. So you need to be secure with how you're interacting with AI. And then the other piece is tracking adoption and usage, making sure that you have systems in place to know what good looks like. So 3 months from now, 6 months from now, you can look back and see how much time AI has saved you. And Roland, I don't know if you have any examples of that if you want to share. I know there was a couple that we were talking about, but there are real ways that it can save time.
One of the things that we've started using it for in-house is actually taking floor plans and saying, we've got a two-story building, we need to do the network cabling for it. And how long is that? Normally, that would take us maybe a full day to work out all the cabling, how much length of cable, what networking equipment we need. And with under 10 minutes, it gave us the full bill of quantities, how much network cable we needed, how many drops, um, how much in each location. So 2 days or a day's work was cut down to um, basically under 10 minutes.
Yeah, and the last piece is the use cases that we'll look at peppered sort of throughout the webinar today.
Sure.
Yeah. Um, I I have the slide in here just to show you a real example, not to scare anybody, but this is a real company that came to Hats and their MSP met with them and said, "Are you guys using AI? What's your AI strategy?" And the owner of the company said, "No, we're not. No one's using AI." Well, the MSP was able to check their firewall and see all of the free tools, the open tools that that company was using. And where the owner thought they weren't using it at all, it turns out that 35 people used it 4,193 times in that month. And that's a far cry from we're not using it. And so the question then becomes, well, how do you know that your company is not putting your data at risk unintentionally, right? It's never an
And
intentional.
most of the time, the employees have the best intentions in the world.
Hmm.
And whether you like it or not, employees are using AI to some extent, and quite often they're not paying for it, so they're using the free tools.
When you're meeting with your clients, Roland, I mean, what's some of the feedback you're getting about the AI, their AI usage, their AI exploration, really, their curiosity? What are they telling you about AI?
Well, a lot of them are, they've started to use it to some extent, but they don't have any policies or procedures in place. So they do know employees are using it, they're using it themselves, but I think a lot of them weren't aware that their whatever they were putting out there was actually being can be used for training and could be made public knowledge.
Yeah. And like you said, it's never with bad intentions. They're using it because they're finding value and because it is helping. Um, but like we mentioned, when they do that, if there are no policies in place, if they haven't worked with their trusted advisor, if they haven't worked with the people who've been keeping their data secure for the last 5, 10, 15 years, they're they're unaware that they're helping the AI models get better, and that their data can be exposed, to other users, which means that it can be accessible by anyone. Confidential info can be exposed, and on the flip side of that, if you've got a company full of people who are using their free ChatGPT accounts and they're putting company info in,
They take that data with them.
they take that data with them. And if they go to a competitor or someone in an adjacent industry, it it's not separated, right? Their data, when they ask a question the next time, it's going to look back through your data to inform the answer. So there's a lot of ways that you can do this wrong. You can do this in a way that exposes your confidential data or financial data, your customers' data. It's always important, like Roland, like you said, to have those policies in place. Um, I think this is where you can uh, really speak to the role that Impress plays here with, data security being a foundational consideration and not an afterthought.
And I think companies have tended to look at, yes, we're keeping the data secure, we're keeping it backed up, we put in the firewalls, we put all these protections around the traditional form of data, but now it's getting exposed by employees using AI. So it's a big risk. So now we've got to make sure that companies start putting those things in place.
Yeah, yeah. And that's where Impress comes in and can help you figure out the best way to find out if your team is using AI and to help you along the path to using it securely. Because there are a lot of tools out there that your your team will probably explore at some point. And so as long as you have those guardrails in place, um, you can do it in a secure way. It's not all fire and brimstone when we're talking about AI. So Roland, if you want to just share a little bit about what the partnership here looks like, and what we're the value that we're trying to bring to all of these companies through our partnership.
Yeah. So the great thing is, once you partner with us and you get the Hatz AI, everybody in your organization now gets access to that one secure platform. Um, you get access to all the different AI models. So you're not just limited to ChatGPT or limited to Grok, you get access to everything. A big thing has been the education because people are not sure how to use AI. So, um, along with getting access to all the different LLMs, they get all of the training. Um, so when you um, uh, when your employees are learning, they can start it, and Mark will touch on this
Hmm.
later on, is that crawl, walk, run. If you don't know anything about AI, you can start from the basics and work your way up. And then, of course, having the workflows, all the integrations, there's just so many ways that companies can benefit by having everything in one platform.
Yeah. Yeah, and we I'm glad that you touched on this, Roland. The crawl walk run, we see that as an invaluable part of the AI journey. If you try to start it run, invariably what's going to happen is you're going to try to get AI to do something that maybe is possible, but there's a much easier way to do it. And you'll spend a lot of time trying to work out all of the prompts and get everything just right. When in reality, maybe it was just switch to a different LLM and it can take care of it, or turn on this tool and it does it for you. I've seen that happen a million times. So our crawl, walk, run approach is part of that education where when you come onto the platform, you start with crawl, and those are use cases that are they're small wins today. They're not things that you need to spend hours, days planning and prompting and trying to figure out exactly how to connect this data source to that data source. Things that you can just start with. And generally speaking, that's pretty much going to be the chat. There's not a lot of training required to ask AI some questions and upload some files and get it to summarize them. Like basic use cases here. And there are things that have immediate realization of time to value, and they work for a large portion of the company. So when we talk about crawl use cases, there are things that are really just a one shot, right? You don't need to spend a lot of time prepping these. It could be AI research. Hey, Grok, can you go find this information about, the Texas, residential construction codes and uh, compare it to this document or whatever you needed to do. Image generation. We'll look at some use cases of this. Brainstorming. Maybe upload a file and ask AI to help you think through the ways that you could improve it, or uploading an RFP and asking for ways that you could respond to it that might be different than your competitors. And then file analysis. Data, AI is terrific at structuring unstructured data and just working with data sets that are kind of messy, and you need to pull trends out of them and get little bits of information that it's not really possible to do if you're just using something like Excel. So AI is great at that. And we can look at a use case, Roland, if that's all right. I'd like to
Sure.
show the platform and let you see what what that looks like here. So I actually have this pulled up. Can you still see this page, the Hatz
Yes,
platform?
yes, we can see it.
Okay. So I have some pinned chats over here, but this is the Hatz platform. Zoom in a bit so you can see more clearly. When you log in, you see this AI model selector. Not all models are the same. We have 50 for a reason because they're not all the same thing. Some are better at certain things than others. So if you go here, you can always look at the featured models, which are usually the newest, most efficient, quickest, smartest, like a good combination of the things you would want in a just a good go-to AI model. But if you want something more specific, like image generation, or if you're uploading blueprints or floor plans or diagrams, and you need AI to be able to look at the image and not just the text, you'd need something that has vision, which is not a new technology, but AI can do it, right? Just natively. Reasoning models, things that can take a second to think before they answer and really create a plan for how they're going to respond to you. You wouldn't use that to ask it, hey, what's the score of the game right now? The reasoning model would be, hey, I'm uploading this file and I need you to think through how someone would respond to this RFP and look at these other data sets, and like it needs to create a plan. So that's a reasoning model. So these are some of the developers, the platforms that are supported by Hats, and you can choose whichever one you want. And then the tools, down here that Roland was mentioning, these tools are some are built in. You don't need to do anything to enable them, but we do have all of these integrations that are available. So if your company uses any of these tools, you can connect and AI can access some of the data in those. OneDrive is a big one. Microsoft Teams, another big one. We're always adding more. So if there's something that you don't see, but it's a big, uh, a popular tool, chances are it'll be added at some point. And then you can also just connect to different data sources here. So an example of a crawl use case would be I just landed in the chat and I need to start asking some questions. Um, let's say I got this floor plan and I want to think through how to respond to an RFP with it, but I need to attach some visuals. So of course you're going to have your professionals actually create the designs, but if you want to start thinking through how something might look in 3D or in different styles or with different interiors, different materials, different landscaping, AI can help with that. I uploaded a screenshot of a floor plan, just a basic ground level floor plan, something like, 500 square feet or whatever, nothing crazy. And I said, show me what this would look like in a 3D model, staying true to the floor plan. And it gave me this. Now I could take this and ask it to do other things. I could say, hey, the walls actually need to be made out of you're going to see how little I know about construction here, but they need to be made out of, 8-inch cinder blocks, and I want to see them. I want to see the floors tile, and I want to see, and it can do those things. It can change those things around for you. Just if you're a visual person like me, looking at a floor plan is not very helpful. But
Doesn't always mean a lot.
it doesn't always mean a lot, right? And it can also read those little notes, right, that are written on them, the little text, and it can take that into account when you're doing something like this. I could say add some trees around the outside. I want, 4 feet of mulched landscaping around the outside of the house, and it can create those things for you. It can also create. There's another one here, and we'll look at an example in the walk phase. But I pulled an RFP that uh, was for the construction of uh, something like this, a 3,800 square foot, two-story craftsman style, et cetera, et cetera. And AI generated this for me. Now, again, I'm visual. I look at this and I don't really know what this means. I know what the words mean, but it's hard for me to picture that. So now I'm writing an RFP to build something like, or I'm writing a proposal. Having this visual in mind can help me get in the right headspace to respond to something like that. Um, those are good crawl use cases. Another basic crawl one is a construction code research agent. This is available. This is in the community section of our platform. I've built this agent, and we can actually go and look at him. If we go to the workshop, go to agents.
And just reminding everybody, this is all within that same platform. So you're getting your workshops, your chat, all of those tools are under one platform.
Yes, that is correct. Here it is, the construction researcher. I built this agent, and one thing you'll notice is that nothing that you see in this platform requires any coding. There's no um, there's no computer language, computer programming, anything that you need to use other than natural language. Uh, AI uses your language, whatever language that is, to interpret what you're asking it to do and to respond. So I've built this agent that is a construction researcher that provides accurate summaries of local building codes, etc. And this is all I've told it. These are the prompts. You're a researcher who works for a very organized construction company. This is what your job is. If the user doesn't give you information about their location, you need to follow up with questions. Uh, the AI model that it runs on, and then the tools that it has access to. Again, I can give it access to these different tools. And so if we go back to the chat, if I want to talk to him, I can go to my construction researcher. And this is the saved. example that I had, but I said, I need to know about OSHA laws. And it said, great, what part of OSHA and what location? So I gave it that information, and then it went out and found all of these with links that I can go and click on for more reading. Just a little agent. Don't need to keep prompting it every time. You don't need to keep giving it its description and its job and its parameters. I can just pick up this conversation and I can share this with anyone in my organization. So if I have project managers, if I've got people out there in the field who need to quickly reference something, instead of doing a Google search and trying to find a bunch of things, this can be helpful for use cases like that. So that goes back to the crawl concept. Roland, is there anything you wanted to add or any questions you think people might have about what they're seeing so far?
Well, the one question that we did have was that what if you've got information or Claude or one of the other LLMs being able to bring that chat information across into Hatz.Ai?
Hmm. That's a pretty common question that we get, and it's great that you're whoever asked that. I can't see the chat right now, but it's great that you're thinking like that because this is all of those platforms in one place. You don't need to have subscriptions to Claude and Grok and ChatGPT. They're here, all built in. So, well, what if you've already started? What if you have agents? What if you have custom GPTs built somewhere else? The best way to get AI to work for you is to ask AI how to do something. So if I'm in Claude and I've got a great conversation going, what you can do is you say, I'm going to continue this conversation in another AI. Can you create a file or can you create an output that I can give to that new AI to pick up right where we left off? And it will summarize everything. It puts everything into the right format so that you can just load that up and in an agent format, what that looks like in our platform is if you go here, you can create a new agent. And I might just say, oh, I want to give that document that it created, or I want to put that information into the instructions. Just, tell it, hey, this is picking up from another AI agent. Here's what it is. Doesn't have to be, again, no code, right? You don't need to create some sort of a compressed file, a JSON, whatever. There's no code. You just tell it, I need to pick this up in another tool. Um, can you help me out? And it usually does a very good job of that. If you're doing something in OpenAI, if you've got a ChatGPT account, you have a custom GPT, agents are very similar to that. We haven't talked about these yet. We will. But the workflows and the apps, these agents can actually they can go into other parts of the Hats platform and run automations and bring that info back in. So this is comparable to those custom GPTs.
And for the people that are not familiar, do you want to go into what a GPT is?
Yeah, GPT. There's the acronym soup of AI is an endless bowl of soup. It's a tool that basically takes it's where ChatGPT gets its name, right? So it's a tool that takes information that you're giving it and looks at it through a consistent lens of these are the prompts that it needs to use to interpret your information. So an example of that might be I can give this chat a document like if we open up construction and I'm just going to give it this example of notice of delays. Okay, so I'll just upload that. Uh, there we go. And now anytime I have a conversation with this, we'll use Gemini 2.5 Flash. When I talk to it, can you new notification saying the weather was prohibiting from working today? And now it has this information in the background that it's not going to just go out to the whole, all of its training data, look through everything. It kind of knows its persona, its role. Um, it's generative, right? That's where the G comes from. It generates new content. There's all kinds of different corners of the AI industry. And this is the generative space. So it transforms what you're giving it into a new sort of never before seen output to create something new.
So basically, when you want a repeatable process and you want it to be consistent, that's when you're going to create that
Yeah.
GPT to do that one thing over and over again in a consistent way.
Yes. Um, with a little tiny little asterisk that the inconsistencies that you might find are not always a bad thing or a negative. The analogy that I give is if you ask ChatGPT to give you a recipe for the best pancakes in the world 100 times, you might get 100 different recipes for pancakes. And that's not bad, right? It's generating new content, new never before seen content by looking at all of the training data that it has about recipes. But where the value of understanding a little bit about AI can come in handy and be massively like transformational for your company is if you can understand how to set up guardrails to tell the AI, don't do this, but do this, and really narrow the focus so that if you give it something that's, maybe not these notifications, maybe you give it 5 examples of proposals that you've submitted to different bids and you give it those 5 examples, and then you upload a new RFP, it can look back at that little bit of data and be able to write something in your voice uh, to respond to that new RFP, to write a new bid for your company, if you're a construction company. So it might it might get some of the descriptive language, uh, from your previous responses, but it's not going to say, "Oh, this is a bid for, building a new playground at an elementary school. I'm going to submit a proposal to build a skyscraper in New York City." It's not going to do something like that, right? It's still going to respond to that RFP, but you can give it those guardrails with just a few sentences of here's how we respond to these and stay within these bounds. And if there's something that you need more info about, ask before you generate the response. Just having a little bit of that best practice in the back of your mind can go a long way to making AI super, super impactful.
So one of the other questions that came up was kind of based around the earlier one. How do they get a series of projects from Claude into the system? Do you have to do it one by one? Can you do it in a group? And if they've got a lot of projects and separately have a lot of chats, is it convenient to go back to the project as the matter progresses?
It's an interesting question. Unfortunately, because AI tools don't necessarily want you like leaving their platform, they don't make it, there's no one-click button to take all of your data from Claude. Unfortunately, right? That would make our lives a whole lot easier. So unfortunately, it might be the case where you have to bring things over one by one, but I don't necessarily see that as a entirely negative thing because there are things that you can do in Hats that you can't do in Claude, and so it gives you a chance to sort of reevaluate your processes and
Mm.
reevaluate those projects.
You can
Um,
improve things as you go along.
yeah, you might say, "Oh, I didn't realize I could do this, and I don't need to rebuild this whole thing. I can just I can just create this workflow in 10 minutes." So, Roland, I think that's actually a great segue into walk, if we're ready to move on
Yep. Let's
to
head on.
that. So the walk phase, so crawling, again, just getting competency around the chat, getting familiar with, I like this LLM better than that one. Don't get hung up on this one's what I need to use for this and this one's what I need to use for that because new LLMs come out all the time, right? We add stuff. We had like 2 a month. There's more that you're never gonna master knowing exactly what they're good for. It's a preference, right? You decide, oh, I like the output from this one better than I like the output from that one, so I'm going to stick with this one for a while, and you can change back and forth, no problem. So once you build up some of those competencies and you get really confident with using the chat, using some of those basic agents. Walking, you might start building some basic workflows, and we'll look at some of those here. You're going to start bringing in your integrations, your CRM, your Teams, Salesforce, Excel, Slack, whatever you're using, you're going to start bringing those things in. And you're going to build process specific tools. So you're moving from more general company-wide AI, hey, this one's cool, maybe you can use it over there in HR, to this is really only going to work for my company or for my department, and for this one specific process that we do. But the ROI is a bit better. So these are similar to crawl, where they don't take a ton of time to set up, but they do require a little bit of customization, a little bit of hand-holding from people who, whether they're in your company, whether they're with Impress, who know AI a little bit more, and they take a little bit of time. So walk use cases, a CRM integration, using AI to query information from Salesforce, HubSpot, creating opportunities, creating new accounts directly from the chat, um, scheduling meetings in Outlook, getting summaries of your emails from the day in chat without having to go and read through 50 emails. HR policy experts, you can give a workflow, you can give an app in Hats access to your OneDrive, or you can give it static files, and then you can share that with the company, and they can query, hey, what's the dress code for events like this? We have a,
And,
yeah.
it could be leave policy, insurance.
Hmm.
If you've got 50 or 100 employees and they're all have questions on uh, HR and they're going to the HR person the whole time, sometimes you might not even have a full-time HR person, but people in accounting are handling HR. Well, how much time are they wasting every month? Whereas this way, you can actually get them to have AI answer those questions and probably quicker and more accurately than your person in HR is going to do.
And certainly with a lot less back and forth over email or back and forth over Teams messages. Um, so another way to look at this is, through these basic workflows. And Roland, you mentioned this again, the time saving, right? The ROI. If you think about it in terms of labor costs, AI is not really our goal is not to have you replace people with AI. In fact, that's fairly detrimental to our goal, which is to help foster AI adoption and collaboration. You need to keep a human in the loop. AI fails miserably if there's no human in the loop. So if you replace a whole team with AI, it's not going to work. So the basic workflows are meant to help augment existing processes. And in terms of labor cost, if you have a team of five and they're all saving 15 to 20% of time throughout the week, which is a reasonable goal now with AI. 2 years ago, not so much, but right now, that's actually a fairly good goal to have. That's like adding a sixth person to that team because they've now saved, 15 to 20% of their time. That's 6.5 to 8 hours throughout the week times five. You got a 40-hour work week taken care of without spending money to hire another person that you weren't going to anyway, right? It just lets them be more productive and focus on the more strategic, creative, impactful work that you hired them to do, and not all of the tasks that take 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. So part of that process is getting your team certified. Hats does offer an AI champion certification. There is also no shortage of AI training out there on the World Wide Web. So getting the people that you're, signing up for an AI tool, getting them trained on that tool and trained on AI best practices in general is a good idea. So the use cases that I would recommend for Walk, um, this would be something like a construction RFP response agent, which is a mouthful. But this is another agent that we built. This is again available just in the community page on Hats. I uploaded a residential construction RFP and I said, help me respond to this. And we talked about reasoning, AI reasoning models. This one says, before it even responds to me, it thinks, about what I'm asking it to do. It says I need to read the RFP. I need to ask clarifying questions one at a time. After gathering information, create a final Word doc. And so it says I read through this, et cetera, et cetera. Can you give me all of this information? So I gave it the information. And then it said, actually, this is a project based in South Carolina, 600 miles away. Are you sure you want to respond to this? So it's helping me think through my reasoning. I said, yeah, you know what? I didn't even look at the RFP. Just, yeah, sure, we'll do it. Um, so skip a couple of lines here, right? And it says, all right, I'm going to go create this. So you don't need to worry about exactly what all of these do, but it's creating that document. So it's responding to the RFP in chunks. Okay, so it's writing these little chunks of text. You can see it. This can take 5, 10 minutes, but it could take 5, 10 hours to respond if I were just writing it a first draft.
And also the great thing is, while that's doing this, you can be doing
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah, exactly. So, so it tells me, okay, it actually took a long time. This timed out, but I can still create the document for you. Um, uh, I don't have the exact. I think I tried this in a different chat. I don't think I pinned it, but it will create documents for you. I have one saved over here because I did want to show you what that looks like. It can create PDFs or Word documents that you can download. So this is another one that I had it create. This was for the financial services industry. I had it create a loan term agreement for me, and AI just it wrote all of the text and then it created it as a PDF that I can download. This also creates PowerPoints, creates CSVs, creates Word documents, and it can also manipulate Word documents and PDFs to some degree. So this is more of the walk phase. One thing to mention with the walk phase is we have something called the workflow assistant, or the workshop assistant, which is one of our tools, and it's pre-built. You don't need to do anything special to get it, but you can turn this on, and you can see here, I told it to create a workflow for me. If you're comfortable with the chat, workflows are those saved collections of prompts. So we go into workflows. If I look at something that I've already built, here is an example of a workflow. We'll do this one. Really simple, right? There's no code here. I'm just telling it you're a researcher. You're going to research this topic. Here's how I want you to organize it. You have access to the internet, and then you're going to send that information to another step and another step over here. And this one's connected to Slack, and this one's going to write a LinkedIn post based on what you found. You can do this for pretty much any process that you can think of. And the more that you get comfortable with these, the more impact you're going to have. But I showed you that because that workflow workshop assistant can create those workflows for you. It will actually write all of those prompts. All you need to do is explain what you want it to create, and it will write the first draft for you. So walking with AI got a lot easier with improvements like this. In terms of construction, the RFP response agent, we also have a couple items in the workshop that I believe I have something in here. I think it's in my favorites. Uh, a bill of quantities for a construction project. This is it looks like a lot, but again, it's AI helped build it. You upload drawings for a project, and it creates all of these different outputs for you. So it just flows like a how a human would tackle this. You need to do this before you can do this, before you can do that. And it can even, you can upload your letterhead in here and it'll put all the final information onto your letterhead. So lots of different things you can do in the walk phase. We'll go back over here. But yeah, Roland, were there any other questions in the chat
Yeah.
about
So,
walking?
yeah. So one of the things was, first of all, can you use this on your phone as well as your computer? A lot of people are walking around with their cell phones. How easy is it to use the
Mhm. Yes, you can use it on your phone.
Hatch.AI platform from the phone?
Yeah, sorry, froze for a second there. You can use it on your phone. It is mobile and tablet friendly. We're working on a couple more updates to improve that process even more. Um, but you can use it on your phone. It's a browser-based tool. So yes.
And then all of those workshops that you've actually got,
Mhm.
those, when they log into the Hats platform, are those going to, the ones that have been saved, are they going to be available for them to use as well?
Yes. If you go to Hats, when you first drop in, you're going to see the chat. Now, each individual person has their own chat private to them. So you'll have a blank screen. Okay. You'll still have all of this on this side, but you won't have any chats until you create them. And then in the workshop, if you click over here, it takes you to the community. Um, when you create a new app, workflow, agent, whatever, the default is private. So you're never unintentionally sharing something with people that you don't mean to. It's always private first. But when you go to save it, you're given the option to share it with your company and then to share it with the community. So our community has hundreds of pre-built templates that you can use, and you can even search by category. We'll add, more to these over time, and not everything is tagged with a category. A lot were built without tags, so you'll have to, just look through what's available. But there's some in construction, some in manufacturing, real estate. I know we have some financial services folks, so a lot in finance here. Um, but yeah, you can check out all of these, and if you want to add them to your favorites or duplicate them and edit them, you can do that. But anything that you see here is up for grabs for you to take and edit. And there's hundreds of tools in here. There are hundreds of items between these three categories.
And then do you have any examples for attorneys or practice management?
Yeah, let's see if we go to all templates and then browse. I believe we've got legal in here somewhere. So we have deposition and transcript analysis. Um, the legal ruling and review, I actually built this one. It reviews rulings and summarizes, and then it also researches. So it's not meant to, again, replace an attorney, replace a paralegal, replace anybody, but it's meant to help them get results faster, and it provides all of the sources that you'd need. Legal concept search. Hey, I want to include this in an argument, but I need information instead of having to click through, 100 different uh, cases. AI can help you like search through those a lot faster. In terms of service, we have engagement letter generators, lease abstraction. Um, what I will say about this, Roland, is the the best use cases are going to be the ones who are built by experts in their field who learn a little bit about AI, and not the people who are AI experts who learn a little bit about financial services or legal. And that's what our partnership really is, right? It's to help clients get a little bit more comfortable with AI, raise the AI IQ in the room, so that they can take the platform, and they can take their tech and build things that we would never think of.
And when you to expand on that, obviously, if you're a lawyer, you're going to know what makes sense as opposed to a guy who does AI. He's not necessarily going to know if it's accurate or not. Same thing in the financial industry. You know, does this really make sense? Or in the construction industry. Um, so you've got to be an expert in your field. But now what you're going to do is use AI to speed up the process of what you're doing. So you're cutting down hours or days of work into
Mhm.
possibly 10 or 20 minutes.
Yeah. And it's important to it's important to be aware
Uh,
of. Yeah,
what about hallucinations? That's become a big thing where,
yeah,
you know, AI is creating stuff that doesn't necessarily exist.
yeah. That's hallucinations are a big, uh, a, a- usually a big question that people have. And I think the good news is overall, the direction that AI is heading is that it's getting better about not hallucinating as much. Hallucinations, for anyone in the room who's unfamiliar with the term, it's when you ask AI a question and it really wants to be helpful. And even if it doesn't have the answer, it doesn't have the true answer, the accurate answer, it'll still give you an answer because its goal is to answer you. And that can be cool sometimes, right? If it's just a fun play around with AI, get it to create something crazy. But if it's what is our what does the RFP say about this? How many square feet is this part supposed to be? What is the budget for this? It can't really hallucinate on that and get you the results that you want. So the good news is that AI is overall getting better. I say AI is like the biggest group project in the world. All of these companies are constantly trying to they're competing with their different AI models, and they're trying to get better. And so hallucination rates have decreased over the last year. Another thing to do with prompt engineering, and I use the term prompt engineering very loosely, is if you see here, I asked it to provide sources and I asked it to explain those sources. So I mentioned earlier, it's very important to keep a human in the loop. And part of that is just because I don't know what I'm looking at here, right? But a human who actually knows this industry would be able to quickly spot check this and say, right, okay, this is a good source or not. And you can give that feedback to this agent, hey, these are not good sources. I need you to use sources like this. So if you can ask it, give me the source, give me page 38 of our employee handbook, paragraph 5, whatever, like asking it to be specific can really cut down on the hallucination rate.
And I think also going through that process of the interview, asking AI to interview you, ask questions one
Hmm.
at a time so that you can answer those questions and you're going to get a more accurate result.
Yeah.
Um, so Elijah had a question. Elijah, do you want to ask your question? So let me see, maybe.
Uh, Hello? Can you repeat your question?
Hey, yes. Hey, Elijah.
Yep, Roland, sorry. Someone was talking to me. Can you repeat your question one more time?
You had your hand raised.
Oh, I am so sorry. That was a pocket hand raise. My,
All
that's,
right.
man, my apologies, y'all. Great webinar. I'll lower my hand now.
Okay. All right. So we did have another question.
Sure.
Practice management, case management, are the two flows needed, or do you need to build them, or would that person be on their own?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's ever really on their own. You have lots of resources. We have tons and tons of videos on the Hats YouTube channel and on our website. We have documentation articles, like 200 documentation articles that you can search for specific things. But the best way like if you go to the community and you don't see a use case that you'd want, there's two options. The first is to go back to the chat and turn on that Hats Workshop Assistant and as clearly as you can explain what you're trying to do. I think about it in three steps. What are my inputs? What do I want the AI to do with those inputs? And what format do I want the output in? So if you say, I need marketing ideas for my company, AI is going to go, all right, what kind of marketing do you do? What company do you have? So if you say, I'm going to provide you with, I need a workflow that I'm going to give transcripts from a webinar, and I need to turn them into marketing points that will go on LinkedIn and Facebook. That's great. It'll create a workflow that does that for you. So with case management, with practice management, if you just go in and tell it what information you want to give it, what you want it to do with that, and what output, what format you want it in, it'll get the first, let's say, 75% of the way there. And then you, as the human in the loop, can come in and just make some final little edits in plain English or Spanish or French or German or whatever whatever you want to do it in. And that's your workflow then. So it's really simple. It takes 5, 10 minutes to get that going.
And one of the statistics that somebody posted was that they heard was that hallucinations were as much as 35%. And I think part of that is um, based on the fact of one, people not asking the right questions. I like using the CRIT method of going, put it in context, uh, tell it the role that you want it to play, what type of expert you want the AI to act as, to interview you, asking those questions one by one, and then give it a specific task.
Hmm.
If you just put stuff into chat and you're just randomly expecting it to give you the correct answer, sometimes it is going to make some things up, and your hallucination rate is going to be higher. So you've really got to train your AI, um, give it the best information, give it as much information as you can, and you're going to get the better results from it. Would you
Yeah.
say that that's fairly accurate? What are your thoughts on that, Mark?
I would say that that's accurate. Everything that you just described is setting up those guardrails of it gets narrower and narrower to the point where it has a really good sense of what you want it to do and how to respond accurately. Um, those that acronym, there are several of those acronyms out there that help you just structure uh, those prompts. So there's tons, right? There's tons of different fun little ways to remember. Even in our platform, we have templates you can click on it, like the role, the persona, the output, the examples. Like it, as long as you do that, you're going to get something with a lower hallucination rate. Um, I know we're coming up on time. I think this is the shortest little section here because this is where
You
um,
hit the run phase.
you hit the run phase, and it when you're running, you don't need to spend as much time to go from point A to point B. So we can breeze through this, but this is where everything before this, we've talked about existing processes. You're not using AI to come up with something brand new. You're using AI to help augment and streamline and make more efficient something that you already do. The run phase, is when you get really good at that first part, crawling and walking. You can start to think about your business from an AI first perspective. New processes built with AI, advanced workflows, maximum ROI. These are unique to even to a specific person, right? They're built with your processes in mind. They have a high impact, but they can require some specialty implementation. They're not something you can just day one turn on. Someday, maybe, but we're not there yet. Run, it's getting better and better and better every seems like every 3 weeks, right? These are multi-step workflows that are more advanced, right? They're things that need a little bit more time. They're new processes. They're agents. And see, I built this a week ago, and agents have gotten much more user-friendly in the last week. So, agents now I'd put in like the crawl and walk phase. But it's a mindset shift of if my company were to completely restart, how could I do it all with AI? And that's what running is all about. If you start with that too early, it's not going to get the best results. Run use cases, just really, really quickly, if we can go back here and look. Run use cases are going to be things that don't exist here. They're things that don't exist in the platform. They're things that you build. They're use cases that are specific to what is in your brain that you're going to get out on paper, map it out, get AI to help you build it, and they're specific to you. So if you think about the platform, it gives you the framework to adopt AI, the framework to explore all of these different LLMs, bring in your tools. But where Impress comes in is helping you along that path. And then when you get to run, they're there to take you across the finish line. I'll stop sharing there, Roland, if we, yep.
Yeah. So I think all in all, there's so many use cases where people can, companies and individuals can benefit from using AI. But um, if we just go through and reiterate, it's got to be safe and secure. You don't want to expose your data. And you've got to go through that training process because if you don't start to learn to use AI correctly, you are going to get incorrect information. So to reduce the hallucinations, set up the framework so you're putting in those guardrails so it's less likely to give you the incorrect information. And then you can start getting to that run phase where you're really starting to look at now you want to build a 5-year plan for your business. Where are you going to be in 5 years' time? How can you use AI to really help you develop and keep you on track during that process? Chris, of course, said on a lighter note, so AI is probably male. If it doesn't know an answer, it makes something up.
I'm not gonna, no comment. I'm not gonna disagree.
So it is fascinating. I think it's something that every company, both small and big, has got to start implementing. And as we've said before, AI is not really going to replace people, but it's going to replace people and companies that don't use AI. Because the ones that are implementing AI into their platform are the ones that are going to grow and expand and become more efficient and productive. So if you're not using it, you're going to get left behind.
That's a good point, and I I've heard it said before. I forget who said it originally, but um, for the vast majority of small businesses, medium-sized businesses, AI is not going to replace you, but someone who can use AI to do your job better will replace you. That's the reality. That's the shift toward that AI first mindset. And companies that are using AI will outbid you. They'll outperform you in marketing. They'll outperform you in new clients, and it's the next step. It's the next progression in your business. So, um, yeah.
Well, Mark, thanks for joining us today, and thank you to everybody who've joined us for the last hour. We're going to have these as monthly sessions. We're going to target different verticals and different aspects of AI. I think it's something that we all need to roll out in all of our businesses and become more proficient at. Um, Now, everybody who attended, people who weren't able to join us, you are going to get a recording of this so you can go back and listen to those pieces. And of course, we're here for any questions that you have. Now, we do have an offer. Um, Anybody that is signed up will be eligible for a free month of Hatz.Ai. So that's going to give you 100,000 credits, and you can just join the platform and play around with it for a month and see if it makes sense for your business. So we will be sending that out at the end of this session. But Mark, thanks a lot. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I just want to say thanks to everyone who joined. Always great to talk about this. My whole role is AI adoption, and it's great to get to answer questions from people who are actually eager to use it. Roland, thank you. Really, really appreciate your partnership, and um, look forward to more of these.
And then one last question was based around the pricing structure, and that's basically um, based on the number of credits um, that you have. So I'm just going to very quickly uh, share my screen, and what this is here, the solo is 30,000 credits for $135 a month. The team starter, which is the most popular, is $340 a month. That's for everybody in your organization. That gives you 100,000 credits. And then you can go upwards from there. And so, Mark, I know we're kind of out of time, but those 100,000 credits, an average search is
Anywhere from, depending on how specific it is, how many tools you have enabled, 1 to 30, 1 to 50. And also just on the credits, it's not like it gets turned off, right?
you can still continue
You can
to
still,
use it.
it's just some of the, with my last 10 seconds here, the race car analogy. You have a tank that holds 10 gallons of gas. If you put that tank of gas into a Lamborghini, it's going to burn through that gas a lot faster than in a Honda Civic. And so that's how LLMs work. Some are massive. You would never need them for writing a blog post. And if you do, it's gonna use way too much power to do that. Whereas other LLMs can get the job done better, quicker, for a lot less. You use those 100,000 credits, it doesn't get turned off. It's just that Lamborghini gets taken away, right? We take away the keys to that Lamborghini and you're
Yeah.
driving the Civic.
You're still using it.
Yeah.
So we'll follow up with more questions. Mark, thanks so much for joining us. Thank you for everybody for attending, and we'll follow up with a recording of the session. Thank you so much.